The trade hub floated quietly in the orbit of a red dwarf star, but inside it was loud, busy, and heartless. Known as Station 3X9, it was one of the galaxy's biggest black markets. Merchants from dozens of species shouted over one another. Bright neon signs flickered in unknown languages. Metal floors shook with the sound of cargo being dragged, pushed, and sometimes kicked. In the center of the main square, a line of slaves was pulled across the cold steel ground. Chains rattled as weak feet stumbled forward. Most of them had stopped fighting a long time ago. They didn't cry. They didn't speak. They just obeyed because they knew what happened to those who didn't. But one among them didn't know how to obey. She was young, maybe no more than 15 in human years. Her skin was smooth and violet, almost glowing in the shadows. Her large white eyes darted around in fear. She was thin, barefoot, and her wrists were bound tightly with energy cuffs. As they tried to pull her forward, she resisted just a little. That little resistance was enough for the slaver to get angry. With a rough grunt, the slaver grabbed her by the hair and yanked her head back. She cried out a sharp, frightened sound that echoed across the open square. He pulled her down to her knees, calling her a beast, saying she wasn't worth feeding. A few merchants nearby laughed. Some shook their heads, but none of them did anything. She wasn't from their world. She wasn't their problem. Wild thing, Slaver shouted, giving her a harsh slap across the face. You think someone will buy you like this? You're no use? She didn't answer. Her lips were trembling, her face red from the slap, her body shaking from cold and fear. That's when he saw her. From the shadows of a nearby stall, a human man watched. He stood still, arms crossed, boots planted firmly on the ground. His coat was long, dusty, and torn at the edges. His face was scarred and tanned like he'd seen too many suns and too many wars. Across his back hung a weapon, not flashy, not loud, just solid steel. He was quiet, but not afraid. No one noticed him at first, until he started walking forward. One step, then another. The crowd began to quiet. Traders lowered their voices. Some stopped talking altogether. Few stepped back, because humans, especially Terran veterans, didn't get involved in slave auctions ever, not on Threx9. It was unspoken law. The aliens ran the black markets. The humans just passed through. But this one, he was breaking that law. He walked right up to the slaver, right up to the girl. The crowd formed a loose circle around them, watching like it was a show. The girl looked up through her hair, eyes wide. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. The man stared at the slaver and said, voice calm but hard, let her go. Looked confused, then he laughed, loud and rough. You want to buy her, Terran? She bites, kicks, screams. I'll give her to you for half-price Sif. You don't mind scars? The man didn't smile. He didn't blink. He simply said again, louder. This time, let her go. The crowd was now fully silent. The slaver's smile dropped. You think you're tough? You think because you're human, people will fear you here? He spit on the floor and reached for the whip at his belt. You're a fool. The man didn't answer. He slowly pulled back the side of his coat, revealing a sidearm. Old design, human military issue, scarred, reliable and fast, before the slaver could grab his whip. The human already had the gun raised, aimed directly at his face. Gasps came from the crowd. The slaver froze. I said let her go, the man said again. Not a shout, just a fact. Hands trembling now, the slaver reached down and unclipped the energy cuffs from the girl's wrists. They dropped to the floor with a soft clang. The girl didn't move. She stared at the human like he was from another world. He holstered his weapon, then stepped forward slowly, holding out a hand not to grab her, not to pull her, just to offer. She looked around. No one else moved. No one else offered anything. Then, like someone learning how to walk for the first time, she reached out and took his hand. The crowd began whispering. Some watched with awe, others with anger, a few with fear as the human led her gently away from the slaver. Station security officers began moving in, slow and careful. They didn't dare touch him yet, because they knew who he was now. Commander Rylan Creed, human war hero, slayer of the Drax War. Queen, he'd vanished after the war. Now he was back, and he had just declared war on the slave trade. With one single act of kindness, the walk away from the square felt like crossing a battlefield. Eyes followed them from every corner, some filled with shock, some with hate, a few with something worse, interest. Whispers traveled faster than footsteps. A human had stood up for a slave. Not just any slaver, wild alien girl. On station Threx 9, that wasn't brave. That was suicidal. Rylan Creed didn't care. His grip on the girl's hand was gentle, but steady. She walked beside him in silence, barefoot and shaking, trying to keep up but clearly exhausted. Her knees were scraped, her skin covered in dirt. Yet for the first time, she wasn't being pulled. I'd rather out. It didn't feel real. They reached his ship, docked in Bay 12. A small freighter, nothing fancy. Dusty, beat up, and patched in more places than it should be, but still fast. The moment the doors sealed behind them, the girl collapsed to her knees. She didn't cry. She just crouched low, like she expected pain to come any second. Creed didn't move right away. He knew that look. He'd seen it in prisoners of war, in children after bombings. She wasn't broken, not yet, but she'd been close. He knelt in front of her. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quietly. No response. "I'm not going to sell you either." She blinked. "You're free now. Do you understand?" Still, no words. But her white glowing eyes finally lifted to meet his guard. Creed stood and opened the medbay. The girl hesitated in the doorway, as if unsure if it was a trap. When he nodded once, she slowly entered. The light was soft inside blue, and clean. It smelled of metal and medicine. Creed grabbed a towel, soaked it in warm water, and handed it to her. She stared at it like it was a weapon. "Here," he said, gently guiding her hand. "For your face." Her fingers trembled, but she took it. He turned around and gave her space. She wiped her cheeks slowly, confused by the warmth. It was the first time in cycles anyone had handed her anything without force. The silence stretched. Then her voice broke it. "Why?" Creed turned. "Why? What? Why? Help me." Her voice was cracked, like it hadn't been used in a long time. Each word sounded like it took effort. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he sat on the opposite bench, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. "I don't know," he admitted. "Maybe because someone should have." The girl lowered her head, not knowing what to say. After a while, he asked, "Do you have a name?" She shook her head, not aloud. "No name at all." She hesitated. "Subject 7A, Creed." Frowned. "That's not a name. That's a number." She nodded. He looked at her again, the way she curled her legs under her body, at how alert her eyes stayed, even now. Like she expected hands to come out of the walls and drag her away. "Can I call you something?" he asked. She said nothing. "How?" "About Nova." She blinked. "It means a star that explodes with light," he explained. "Seems fitting," she thought for a long time. Then slowly nodded. "Nova," she whispered. He smiled, just barely. "All right, Nova, let's get those wounds cleaned." Over the next hour, Creed treated every scrape and bruise. She winced often, but didn't cry. He scanned her for infection, found 2 broken ribs, and even spotted a faint line on her back, a scar from a whip. When she saw the scan, she quickly turned her face away, ashamed. He didn't comment. Later, he brought out ration packs. She sniffed the food with suspicion, like it might explode. He had to eat first before she dared touch hers. Even then, she chewed each bite like it was stolen. She was halfway through her second bite when the ship's warning light blinked red. Unregistered transmission. Creed tapped the console. Silent alert appeared. Bounty issued. Human male. Name Rylan. Creed. Charges: assault, interference with property. Status: armed. Approach with caution. Reward: 50,000 credits. Dead or alive. Below it, another notice. Subject 7. A. High value asset. Retrieve alive. Last seen with Terran male. Reward negotiable. Creed's jaw tightened. They've already put a price on us, he muttered. Nova looked up, sensing the tension. They want me? She asked. He nodded. And me too, now. She lowered her head again. You should. Return me. Take the money. I'll leave you. He stood up slowly and walked to the window, watching as small ships buzzed across the stars. I've done things in my life I can't take back, he said, more to himself than her. But I won't be the kind of man who turns a child back into chains. Nova stared at him. You're not like others. He turned, eyes sharp. Neither are you. Outside the ship, somewhere deep in the station, a new order was being passed among bounty hunters and mercenaries. The human had made himself a target, not for credits, but for breaking the rules. Nova sat quietly, staring at her hands, no longer bound. They looked strange to her free. She rubbed her wrist where the cuffs once burned. The skin was raw. Don't know how to be free, she whispered. Creed walked back, knelt again, and held her gaze. Then we'll learn together. Asterisk. The stars outside the viewport drifted by slowly, but inside the ship, time moved even slower. The small freighter, quiet except for its soft engine hum, had become something strange for Nova space where no one yelled, no one hit, and no one dragged her away. Still, she couldn't sleep. She sat in the co-pilot's seat, hugging her knees to her chest, wrapped in one of Creed's old jackets. It was far too big for her, but warm. The smell of oil and fabric clung to it, familiar, but oddly comforting. Creed was at the console, checking scan logs, running silent routes through backwater systems. He didn't speak much, just worked, watched. Protected Nova watched him from the corner of her eye. She didn't understand him. Humans were supposed to be cold or greedy at least that's what the slavers told her. But this one hadn't asked for anything. He hadn't even locked her in. She could have run, but she didn't. Why do you keep looking at me like that? He asked suddenly, not taking his eyes off the screen. She flinched. I didn't mean to. He looked over. He said softly, raising his hands. Not angry, just curious. Nova blinked at him. I don't understand you. That makes two of us. I was trained to obey, not to ask, not to think. You confuse me. Creed leaned back in his chair, watching her now. Do you want to know the truth? He asked. She nodded slowly. Was trained to, for war, for killing. They gave me orders, and I followed them. For years, until I couldn't anymore. What happened? He looked down at his hands, calloused and scarred. One day I realized I wasn't fighting for anything. I believed in just carrying out someone else's plan. I walked away. I ran. I lost everything. But maybe I found something now. He looked at her. Nova didn't know what to say, but something inside her chest felt strange, warm, and heavy at the same time. Do I belong to you now? She asked quietly. Creed shook his head. You don't belong to anyone then. What am I to you? He paused, thinking carefully. You're not property. You're not a burden. You're a person. And right now, you're my responsibility. She lowered her gaze. I don't know how to be that. Good, he said with a faint smile. Then no pressure to get it right. Suddenly a loud beep echoed from the console. Creed turned fast. Someone's scanning us. Nova jumped to her feet. It's not an attack, Creed muttered, tapping through screens. Passive scan. No weapons lock. But they're tracking us. Nova moved beside him. Is it bounty hunters? Could be. Could also be the slaver syndicate. She looked up at him. They won't stop. You took me. They want you punished. Didn't reply. Instead, he brought up the nav system and plotted a course to an abandoned mining colony in deep space. A place he used to hide between jobs, far off any main lane. We need to go dark, he said. No signals, no traffic. Just disappear. Nova swallowed hard. Will they kill you? He looked at her calmly. Only if I let them. As the ship jumped into hyperspace, Nova sat back in her seat, eyes wide at the blue swirl outside the windows. She'd been in cargo bays all her life, never on the bridge, never allowed to see stars like this. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. I don't want you to die, she said suddenly. Creed looked over at her. Well, that makes two of us. She let out a soft sound, not quite a laugh, not quite a cry. Hours later, they landed in a quiet place, an old asteroid mining outpost half swallowed by dust. Creed used manual landing, no signals, no lights. Perfect for hiding. The moment they stepped outside, the dusty red surface crunched under their boots. Nova looked around nervously. Where are we? Nowhere, Creed replied. Exactly where we want to be. Inside the old station, he powered up emergency lights. Everything smelled of rust and decay. But it was quiet. Safe for now, they set up in an old dormitory room. 2 bunks. 1 cracked window. No cameras. Creed handed her a small tablet. Here, he said. It has language programs. Your pace. Nova stared at the screen, then at him. You want me to learn? Not want? Need. You deserve to know things. She held the tablet like it was treasure. No one ever gave me. Anything before? Creed sat across from her. Now someone has. For the first time since she met him, she smiled. Just a little. It faded quickly when a message flashed across the screen of his wristcom. Creed opened it and his face darkened. Nova saw it. What is it? She asked. Someone found the bounty list, he said grimly. Put another price. On your head? This one is double. She swallowed. Why? He looked at her. Because you're not just a slave. You're someone important, I think. They've been hiding something about you, something they don't want the galaxy to know. Nova felt her hands tremble. Like what? Creed didn't answer. He was already moving toward his locker, unlocking. A hidden panel, sided data drives, ancient war tech in one sealed case. He opened it. Inside was a device shaped like a crystal. Alien, unknown. Creed held it up because this was stitched inside your cloak. Nova stared at it, eyes wide. I think they weren't selling you, he said slowly. I think they were hiding you. Asterisk. Nova stared at the crystal-like device glowing faintly in Creed's hand. Lit. It pulsed with a soft bluish light, steady, alive, like it was breathing. She had never seen it before. Not clearly. Yet something deep inside her reacted to it. Her chest tightened, her skin buzzed, and her legs felt unsteady. She didn't know what it was, but it felt like it knew her. Creed placed it on the table gently, like it might break. They hid this in your cloak, sewn into the lining, he said. No tracking signals, no tech signatures, just this silent, glowing thing. Nova stepped closer, but stopped halfway. I don't understand. Creed nodded. Neither do I, but I know this isn't random. They didn't treat you like the others. It's the way that Slaver looked at you. He was afraid of you. Nova shook her head quickly. They beat me, starved me, called me worthless. Exactly, Creed said, his voice calm but sharp. You were worthless. They wouldn't need 10 mercenaries to chase you down. They wouldn't double the bounty. And they wouldn't risk stitching something this valuable into your clothes. He turned on his data scanner and aimed it at the crystal. Numbers flashed, then failed. The screen glitched. Lights flickered across the room. Nova backed away. Is it dangerous? She asked. Her voice thin. Creed shut off the scanner. I don't think so, but it reacts to something. Maybe to you. What? Looked down at her hands. But I'm not special. I was born in a lab. No family, no real name. Creed looked at her with calm eyes. Even stars start in darkness. That night, Nova couldn't sleep. She kept glancing at the crystal on the table, wrapped now in cloth, but still glowing faintly. She sat by the window of the dusty outpost, watching tiny dust storms rise across the asteroid's surface. For the first time in her life, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, she was more than just someone's property. When dawn came, if it could be called dawn on a rock like this, Creed handed her a warm drink and sat beside her. "You're not safe here anymore," he said. "You can't stay hidden forever." Nova nodded. "You'll leave me?" He raised a brow. "Do you want me to?" She thought carefully. "No. Then we're in this together." She looked at him. "Even if it gets you killed?" Creed smiled faintly. "Wouldn't be the first time someone tried." He gave her a data pad. "I found something while scanning the crystal manually. Symbols, old ones. They match something from the war archives. A lost species. Valeri vanished 100 years ago. No homeworld, no colonies, no survivors." Nova looked confused. "And how does it connect to me?" Creed turned the screen toward her. "Because this is a Valeri relic," he said. "It responded when you entered the ship." Her hands trembled. "You mean I'm Valeri?" He nodded slowly. "Or at least part of you is. And if that's truth, there are people out there who'd kill for your blood." She leaned back, shocked. "They kept me locked away all my life. I thought I was nothing." "You're not nothing," he said. "You're proof that something ancient, something powerful, is still alive." Suddenly the power flickered. Lights went dim. Creed stood up instantly, reaching for his blaster. "We're not alone," Nova backed into the corner, hugging the wrapped crystal. Creed moved to the control panel, scanning for motion. A ping showed up. "Small ship, just landed outside the mining base. They found us." A voice buzzed through the outer speaker. Calm, cold. "Terran soldier, you have something that doesn't belong to you. Surrender the girl, and we'll let you live." Creed leaned into the mic. "Come try." A low laugh answered back. Then silence. Nova gripped his arm. "They'll kill you." Creed shook his head. "Not if we kill them first." He handed her a small communicator. "If I fall, you run. Find the emergency pod. Launch to the far side of the system. There's an old beacon. I've coded it with a message. Someone will find you." Nova didn't move. "I'm not leaving you. You might have to." He loaded his rifle, checked the charge, and pulled on his armor vest. "They'll come through the side airlock," he said. "That's where the walls are weakest." Nova reached into the locker and pulled out an old combat knife. Her hands shook, but she held it tight. "You ever use that?" he asked. She shook her head. "But I'll learn fast." Creed smirked. "That's the spirit." Within minutes, footsteps echoed through the vents. Heavy boots whispered alien words. He motioned for Nova to stay low. They came fast for armored bounty hunters in dark gear. Helmets glowing red. Creed struck first. A flash grenade blinded. Then he moved like a shadow, firing with perfect aim. One, down two. But they weren't rookies. One returned fire, grazing Creed's side. Nova screamed but didn't run. Instead, she charged with the knife, slashing at the third attacker's leg. It wasn't deep, but it was enough. Creed shot him clean through the visor. Only one remained. He grabbed Nova, dragged her backward. Gun to her neck. Creed froze. "Drop it," the bounty hunter growled. Nova's heart pounded. Creed's eyes narrowed. Then Nova did something wild. She let go of the crystal. It hit the ground and exploded with light. The whole room flashed white. The bounty hunter screamed. Nova dropped to the floor as his grip loosened. Creed shot him. Before he could blink, silence followed. The light faded. Nova lay on the ground, coughing. The crystal, now cracked, was still glowing but softer. Commodore Creed rushed to her side. "You all right?" She nodded. I didn't know it could do that." He looked down at the glowing artifact. "Neither did I. But now I believe it." Leave. What? He looked her dead in the eyes. That you were never meant to be hidden. You were meant to change everything. Hours passed since the last shot was fired in the dusty mining base. The smell of burnt metal still hung in the air. Blood stained the floor where the bounty hunters had fallen, but inside the quiet now, there was something else, something strange and powerful. Nova sat on the cold ground, staring at the cracked crystal in her lap. The glow had faded, but it still pulsed slowly like a weak heartbeat. Ran her fingers gently across its surface, not sure if it was alive or just a relic of something long lost. Creed leaned against the wall, bandaging the burn on his side. It wasn't fatal, but it hurt. He kept glancing at her not with fear, but with curiosity. That light from earlier, it wasn't natural. It had blinded the enemy, stopped the attack, and somehow left them both untouched. "Are you sure you're all right?" he asked her. Nova nodded slowly. "It didn't hurt me, it felt like fire, but soft, like it wanted to protect me." Creed looked thoughtful. "Weapons don't protect, they destroy. But that thing, whatever it is, reacted like it cared." Clutched the crystal tighter. "It feels like it knows me." He moved closer, sitting across from her. "Maybe it does. Maybe it was made for you." Nova hesitated, then whispered, "Do you think I'm one of them?" "The Valeri," Creed sighed, wiping blood off his arm. "I think it's more than that. I think you're not just a survivor. I think you're the last of them." Her eyes widened. "But I don't even know who they were." Creed tapped his wrist pad and brought up a shaky old recording. It played in the dim, light, grainy footage of tall, elegant beings with glowing skin and white eyes, walking across golden cities. Floating in the sky, they looked like art, like something out of dreams. "These are the Valeri," he said. "Hundreds of years ago, they were seen as myth. They didn't build warships. They built peace. They used technology to grow life, not destroy it. They vanished during the Great Rift War." Nova leaned in, eyes full of wonder. "Why? No one knows. Some say they were hunted for their abilities. Others say they just faded away. But one thing is clear. No one's seen one in over a century. Till now." She looked away, her voice barely a whisper. "But I'm not them. I'm broken. Weak," Creed frowned. "You held off a trained bounty hunter with a knife and saved us both with a single touch. That's not weakness, Nova. That's strength." Just then, an alert beeped on the ship's comm panel. Creed stood up fast, checking the signal. His face went grim. "What is it?" Nova asked. He turned slowly. "They found the outpost. There's a fleet incoming. It's not bounty hunters this time. Slaver syndicate ships. Big ones." Nova's breath caught. "They're coming for me." Creed nodded. "They're not going to ask questions this time. They'll glass this entire rock if they have to." He moved quickly now, throwing gear into bags, prepping weapons, stashing rations. Nova followed him silently, but her heart was racing. "We can't run forever." He looked at her. "No, we can't. That's why we're going to stop running." She froze. "What do you mean?" "It's a planet near this sector," Creed said. "A Terran colony, isolated, protected. It has old war bunkers from the last human-alien conflict. If we get there, we can hold out. Maybe even find help." Nova's hands trembled. "What if no one believes us?" Creed handed her a silver badge from his coat pocket. "They'll believe me. This badge says, I served in the Black Sun Battalion. That still means something in human space." She took it carefully. "You were a hero." We snorted. "That's what the brass said. The truth." I got tired of burying kids and calling it victory. As they loaded the last of their supplies onto the ship, Nova paused at the entrance. She looked back at the broken room, the blood, the empty bed, the shattered crate where the crystal had first glowed. This place was the first where I didn't feel like nothing. Creed turned back to her. Then it served its purpose. As they launched into orbit, the stars ahead seemed brighter, sharper. But on their trail, distant and growing larger, 3 ships appeared, sharp, black, and fast. Creed tightened his grip on the controls. "We'll have to go through the asteroid field to lose them." Nova sat beside him. "I trust you." He smiled faintly. That makes one of us. The chase was on. Creed dodged between rocks and debris, flipping the ship hard through gaps no sane pilot would try. Nova held onto her seat, staring out at the chaos. The pursuing ships fired twice, missed once, then hit. The ship shook violently. We lost one thruster, Creed said. But we're still flying. As they approached the edge of the asteroid belt, one slaver ship cut across their path, blocking escape. They're trying to box us in, he muttered. Nova looked at the crystal, still glowing in her lap. She bit her lip. Let me try something. Creed glanced at her. Nova no, but she was already pressing her hand to the crystal. A flash of light filled the cockpit, not blinding this time, but bending the space in front of them. The slaver ship shimmered and phased through them like mist. Creed stared in disbelief. What the hell did you just do? I don't know, Nova said, breathing hard. But I think the crystal listens to me. Behind them, the pursuing ships lost track. Their scanners scrambled. They drifted away. Confused, Creed punched in the coordinates for the Terran colony. You've got one shot. Nova sat back, heart pounding, the crystal now resting quietly in her lap again. She whispered, Maybe I'm not a weapon. Maybe I'm a key. Creed looked over. Then let's find out what door you're meant to open. And the stars swallowed. Then once more, the jump drive cooled with a tired whine as the stars settled into their proper places. The ship had exited hyperspace near the edges of an old Terran colony, Elandris 7. Quiet green world wrapped in clouds and history. Once a military outpost, it was now forgotten by most. Creed had chosen it for that reason alone. They were alive, barely Creed. Leaned back in his pilot's seat, breathing heavily. The last hour had been chaos dodging fire, navigating debris, surviving something that no ordinary ship should have made it through. But they had. Thanks to her, Nova sat beside him, the crystal now warm and calm in her lap. She hadn't spoken. Since they jumped, her hands trembled. Her thoughts felt heavy. Something had changed in that asteroid field. The way the crystal phased them through the enemy ship, it hadn't just been instinct, it had been connection. Touchdown in 5 minutes, Creed said, eyes on the console. There's an old bunker under the North Forest. Still shows power. We'll make it there before sunset. Nova nodded but didn't look up. What am I, Rylan? He turned his head slightly. What do you mean? When I held the crystal, I saw things. Not with my eyes. Inside my mind, a city made of light, towers that floated. People who sang without sound, they called me. Seed. What does that mean? Creed didn't answer right away. He tapped a command, then turned to face her. Knew their end was coming, he said. They didn't want to vanish, so they created you. Maybe not you exactly, but your kind. Hidden, planted across the galaxy. Waiting for the right moment. Planted like a tree, she asked. He smiled faintly. Exactly. And now you're growing. But I don't know how to control it. I don't even know what it is. He looked down at the crystal. We'll figure it out. Together. The ship landed on a grassy ridge beneath the cover of thick alien trees with silver-tipped leaves. The sky above was pale blue, but the sun was already low-burning orange behind the clouds. It felt peaceful here. Still, they moved quickly, slipping through the woods until they found the old bunker, a large metal hatch half buried beneath vines. Creed brushed the foliage aside and punched in an old Terran military override. The door groaned open, revealing a long staircase descending into cold steel. Inside, the place smelled of dust and war. Rows of empty beds, faded flags on the walls, an old generator still humming faintly in the dark. This place saw a lot of pain, Nova whispered. Creed nodded. So did we. They set up camp in the main hall, lit only by a few lanterns. Nova sat near one of the wall terminals while Creed checked power reserves. Suddenly, her voice broke the quiet. There's something stored here. He turned. What do you mean? She pointed to the terminal. The system has a file encrypted. But when I touched the pad, it opened. Creed stepped over, scanning the screen. It was a video. File labeled in military code. Marked classified. Valeri contact last recording. Nova pressed play. The screen lit up with the face of a much younger man, age wide with wonder. Dust on his cheeks, a war helmet under his arm. Behind him stood a Valeri woman, tall, glowing, silent. The man spoke to the camera. They aren't what we thought. Not weapons, not gods. They're caretakers. They see time differently. They warned us that something is coming. Something worse than war. A hunger that eats stars. They gave us a gift, called it a seed. Said it would know when to grow. Not a one. The stars were in danger. I think this girl is it. The video glitched, ended. Nova stared at the dark screen. That's me, isn't it? Creed looked at her. I think so. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't know how to stop anything. I don't even know how to live like a normal person. You're not meant to be normal, Nova. She turned to him. Then what am I meant to be? He reached out, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. You're meant to decide that yourself. Outside, night settled over the forest, stars blinking into view. But elsewhere in space, something darker stirred, far beyond Alandra 7. In the shadows of a dying star system, a new kind of ship entered the galaxy. It was unlike the others, not slaver, not mercenary. It was black as space itself, with no windows, no lights, and no sound. It moved without propulsion. It glided like thought. Inside, no crew, just a presence, a mind, an ancient hunger. It had felt the crystal's light, and it had turned its eyes toward Nova, back on the planet. Creed watched Nova sleep, curled on one of the bunker beds, still holding the crystal. I sat with his rifle across his knees, wide awake, because he knew what came next. They weren't just running from slavers anymore. They were standing in the path of something much bigger, something old enough to have wiped out the Valeri, strong enough to burn planets, and now curious enough to hunt the last of the seeds. Creed whispered to the dark, more to himself than to anyone else. If you want her, you'll have to go through me first. Nova stood in the open field outside. The bunker, the wind brushing gently against her face. Morning light broke through the silver trees, casting soft gold on her violet skin. In her hands, the cracked crystal pulsed faintly, responding to her heartbeat. Something was coming. She could feel it not just in the earth. It's not just in the air, but inside her bones. She turned slowly and looked at Rylan Creed, who was standing beside her, with his old rifle slung across his back and his coat whipping in the breeze. His eyes weren't afraid, just focused. It's like a man who had already decided that no matter what came next, he wouldn't run. Are you ready for this? He asked her quietly. Nova swallowed hard. I don't know what this is. He glanced up at the sky. Something old.
Ow.
Something terrible. The Valeri called it the hunger, a force that moves between stars and devours light. They thought they could stop it, but they failed. And now it's coming for me? She asked. No, he said. Now it's coming for all of us, but you're what the Valeri left behind. She looked down at the glowing stone in her palms. Then why do I still feel so small? Creed gave her a rare smile. Because mountains don't know they're mountains. They just stand. A sudden, high-pitched frequency rang through the sky. Birds scattered from the trees. The clouds shifted unnaturally, swirling as if pulled by invisible hands. Then they saw it. A ship. But it wasn't built. It had grown. Its surface was black and pulsing, like the outer shell of a deep sea creature. It didn't fly so much as it arrived, appearing above the planet with no warning. No engines, no sound. It was alive. Nova took a step back. That's it. The crystal in her hand flared, brighter than ever, from the belly of the dark ship. Something descended. Not a person. Not a being. A shape, like it touched the ground without weight, without sound, and began gliding toward them, pulling darkness in its wake. Creed raised his rifle. Stay behind me. But Nova moved forward. Nova, she didn't stop. The shadow thing spoke, but not in words. Its presence echoed in their minds, like 1,000 cold voices whispering in a cave. You are the last root, the final breath. Come with us. Burn with your kind. Nova's hand tightened around the crystal. Her knees shook, but she didn't fall. No. The entity paused. You were not made to fight. You were made to yield. Creed stepped up beside her. Then you really don't know her. The ground beneath them trembled. Nova closed her eyes, and in that moment, the memories flooded her. Not from her mind, from the crystal, cities of light. A people who healed instead of hurt. A child's laugh beneath a sky filled with stars. She wasn't just made to survive. She was made to remember. To revive, the crystal glowed white-hot. She opened her eyes. They shined like twin suns. The shadow reeled back as if struck by sunlight. Creed shielded his face. Nova, what are you doing? I don't know, she whispered, but I think this is what I was born for. She stepped forward, barefoot in the grass, raising the crystal high. The wind whipped violently, the trees bent, and the ground split beneath her feet, but she didn't stop. Light poured from her chest, her skin, her voice. I am the last seed of the Valeri, she said, her voice not hers alone anymore. You buried my people in silence. You fed on their light. I'll burn in their memory. The light exploded. The shadow shrieked not in pain, but in rage as it was forced back, unraveling like smoke and fire. The dark ship above trembled, cracked, and began to collapse into itself, consumed by the same force it once used to devour others. In moments, it was gone. Silence returned. Nova collapsed to her knees, the crystal dim in her hands. Creed rushed to her side, catching her before she hit the ground. Hey, he said, gripping her shoulders. Stay with me. She blinked up at him, exhausted, but alive. Did we win? He nodded, breathing hard. I think so. But there'll be more, she whispered. Others like it. I can feel them. Hungry. Creed looked out at the brightening sky. Then we get ready, and we make sure they never win again. She smiled faintly. You never wanted a mission. He laughed once. I didn't, but I think I found one anyway. They stood at the gates of the Terran colony. News had already spread. A human war hero had returned with a child of the stars at his side. Some were afraid. Others curious. A few. Hopeful Nova stood tall now, shoulders back, eyes forward. She wore a new cloak over her body, hand-stitched from Creed's old coat. In her chest still rested the crystal, quiet now but warm. They asked her name at the gate. She looked up and answered, clear and proud. Nova, not a slave. Not an experiment. I am Nova of the Valeri, and I choose to stand. The guard looked at Creed. And you? Creed shrugged. It's just a man with a rifle and a promise to keep. They entered the colony together, and far beyond the stars, across. A galaxy waking from slumber, other lights began to stir their seeds. Forgotten, buried, waiting to grow. The age of fear was ending. The age of light was just beginning. Asterisk.